Here are the top stories for today, February 4, 2021. There will be no electricity disconnection for low-income families. Secretary Carlito Galvez says inoculation will start 3 days upon the arrival of COVID-19 vaccines. A mother flies to Davao in search of her daughter who was recruited by the NPA. And let us take a look at the TikTok dance challenge created to promote vaccine. Good day, I'm William Theo. Welcome to the PNA Newsroom. Cabinet Secretary Carlo Nograles assures there will be no electric disconnection for Lifeliners or low-income families. The no disconnection policy was supposed to end on December 31, but was further extended until the end of January. Meralco said only non-Lifeliners who have not paid any amount since March last year will be disconnected.
Just as our kababayans have had to adapt to the pandemic, so has the government taken steps to help our countrymen cope with the challenges it presents. Isa po sa mga hakbang na ito ay ang direktiba ng Department of Energy na huwag putulan ng kuryente ang tinatawag na Lifeliners o mga low-income consumers na kumukonsumo ng threshold level set by ERC tulad na lamang ng isang distribution utility na kung saan nakaset na 100 kilowatt hours and below. Makakahinga na po ng malalim ang ating mga kababayan na mababa o walang kita. Hindi po kayo mapuputulan ng kuryente.
Amid public hesitancy on COVID-19 vaccine, Cabinet Secretary Carlo Nograles assures that regardless of the brand, these vaccines are safe and effective as it passed the standards of the Food and Drugs Administration or FDA. He also called on different stakeholders and media partners to help disseminate information about the jabs.
It's really lack of information, and lack of information really comes in certain biases. So really the way to combat it is just to really propagate and continue driving yung information campaign na kinakailangan natin. And it has to be a campaign that not only government is involved in, but we'd also like to ask the help and support of different stakeholders. Kasama na po dyan yung mga kaibigan natin sa media and even those in the private sector. Importante po kasi that there has to be confidence in vaccines that are approved in this country regardless of brand. Kasi kailangan yung mensahe po is basta approved ng FDA po natin, no? Regardless of the brand, dumaan po sa masinsinan at mahigpit na proseso yan para ma-approve ng FDA. So kung kahit anong brand po yan, kung aprobado ng FDA, ligtas po yan, effective po yan. At yan po ay gagawin natin at tayo sa pamahalaan ay hindi naman po tayo papayag na magro-roll out tayo ng vaccine na hindi natin nasisiguro yung safety, efficacy, ang kaligtasan ng lahat ng kapwa nating Pilipino. Of course, there is that hesitancy that comes with vaccines per se, which we accept, no? And which we are trying to address. Pag nag-roll out na po tayo by mid-February at mapakita po natin sa publiko na okay naman, safe naman, effective, ligtas naman po. Habang nagro-roll out po tayo from February to March to April, unahin natin siyempre medical and health frontliners natin, tataas at tataas po ang kumpiyansa. Of course, Pfizer ang mauna with 117,000 doses coming in through the WHO COVAX facility. Then AstraZeneca will follow suit. Then we have the Sinovac applying for the FDA. Pag lumusot sa FDA yan, then hopefully we'll be able to see a rollout even of the Sinovac vaccine, and so on and so forth.
Vaccine Czar Secretary Carlito Galvez Jr. assures that Filipinos under the government's priority list will be inoculated 2 to 3 days after the first batch of coronavirus vaccines arrive in the country. He said the first batch of the vaccines will be coming from drug makers Pfizer, BioNTech, and AstraZeneca.
Expectin lang natin na 2 to 3 days At ituturo po natin kaagad dyan, uunahin po natin yung 4 na referral hospitals natin dito sa Metro Manila. Itong PGH, yung Philippine General Hospital, Lung Center, itong East Avenue, at saka yung Tala Hospital dito sa Caloocan City. And then afterwards, ang gagawin po natin yung lahat ng mga hospital na may COVID referral sa different cities ng Metro Manila, Cebu City at Davao City po ay susunod na po yun. Yung pong sa COVAX facility vaccines ay kailangan po very stringent yung ipapalo po natin yung DOH WHO protocol. So unahin po natin yung ating talagang healthcare workers and frontliners and also the vulnerable communities.
Meanwhile, the government's COVID-19 Coordinated Operations to Defeat Epidemic, or CODE team, has been visiting the local government units to discuss the vaccine deployment and the nationwide immunization program. Galvez said the team will be visiting different cities in the National Capital Region. They are also set to visit Davao City, Cebu City, Central Luzon, Calabarzon, and Baguio City. Mock COVID-19 vaccination is held in Marikina as it prepares for the mass inoculation this month. Meanwhile, Malabon identified vaccination sites and cold storage facility when the vaccines arrive in their city. More on this from Laid Kabagani.
The city government of Marikina targets to inoculate 10,000 residents per day once the COVID-19 vaccines become available. During the visit of the CODE team headed by the National Task Force Against COVID-19, Mayor Marcelino Chodoro laid out their plans for the rollout of the vaccination program.
We only have a 3-step process para mabakunahan ang isang tao. Una, yung registration and screening. Pangalawa ay yung vaccination itself. At pangatlo, at binibigyan natin ng premium, ay yung post-care monitoring.
Meanwhile, the city government of Malabon targets to initially inoculate 118,000 of its populations. It also readies 11 teams of vaccinators who will be manning 5 identified vaccination sites in the city. Malabon City Health Officer Bobby Romero laid out the city's COVID-19 vaccination plan during the visit of the CODE team.
We have a population of 396,434. At ang ating pong target ay 60%. So, 237,860. Ang 50% po nito ay ang magiging LGU target, which is 118,930. So, we need around 23,786 vial dun po sa target po ng local. So, all in all, with 10 doses po bawat isang vial. So we have 11 teams of vaccinators, one from the hospital ng Malabon as fixed posts. We have 10 teams from the health centers and other workforce as temporary posts. 6 members each team. 1 member as a composite team. Ito po yung namamahala dun sa ating adverse effect after immunization. 1 member to be responsible para po dun sa orderliness ng ating waiting area. At we have 1 ambulance po bawat po vaccination site.
Vaccine Czar Secretary Carlito Galvez thanked the local government units for their efforts in the rollout of the vaccination program.
Ako po ay natutuwa na mayroon na pong darating ngayong Pebrero ng mga vaccine. At kami po ay nagpapasalamat sa LGU at sa lahat ng ating mga kababayan sa kanilang paghahanda po dito sa ating pag-vaccine.
For the PNA Newsroom, I'm Laid Kabagani.
Chief Presidential Legal Counsel Salvador Panelo said the Philippines would not intervene in Myanmar's internal affairs. Panelo made the announcement following the arrest of State Councilor Aung San Suu Kyi and other top officials by the military. Suu Kyi and other senior political officials of National League for Democracy were arrested on Monday when military forces declared a 1-year state of emergency. Their landslide win last year was voided as the military seized all legislative, executive, and judicial powers.
Unang-una, kung ano man nangyayari sa ibang bansa, internal affairs nila yun. Ang unang iisipin palagi natin muna, siyempre, gaya ng iniisip palagi ni Secretary Teddy Boy Locsin, yung kaligtasan, kapakanan ng mga overseas workers natin na nandun sa nagkakagulong bansa. Kung medyo talagang merong paglamag, mag-i-express tayo ng opinion o ng concern, hanggang dun lang. Pero hindi tayo makikialam. Hindi po ba? Kagaya rin ng ayaw nating pinakikialaman tayo rito. Yan ang tinatawag na paggagalang sa bawat isa.
The Office of the Prosecutor General said Attorney Rico Quicho can file a motion for reconsideration after the Justice Department junked his complaint against Senator Aquilino Coco Pimentel. Quicho filed a complaint against Pimentel over alleged breach of quarantine rules. The case stemmed from Pimentel's visit to the Makati Medical Center, where his wife was giving birth even as he tested positive for COVID-19. Prosecutors resolved to dismiss the complaint against Pimentel for violation of Section 9 of Republic Act 11332 or the mandatory reporting of notifiable diseases and health events of the public health concern. They said Pimentel is not a public health authority and therefore not obliged to report. It also said that Pimentel only knew about his health condition while he was already at the premises of the hospital. Quicho has 15 days from receipt of the resolution to file a motion for reconsideration. Still to come, the ice plant that caused the ammonia leak in Valenzuela is now closed. And Filipino footwear designers are all set to compete in China. More on these when the PNA Newsroom continues.
Alamin kung paano ang tamang pagsusuot ng surgical mask. Una, hawakan ang mask sa strap at siguruhing natatakpan nito ang inyong bibig at ilong. Tandaan, ang may kulay na bahagi ng mask ang dapat nasa labas. Ito lamang ang tamang paraan ng pagsuot nito. Ihulma ang nose piece o maliit na metallic strip ayon sa hugis ng inyong ilong. Iwasan ang paghawak sa inyong ilong at bibig. Kung marumi na ang mask, hubarin ito gamit ang strap at itapon ito sa isang basurahan. Siguruhin ang maayos na paghuhugas ng kamay gamit ang sabon at tubig. Ang surgical mask ay dapat gamitin ng mga pasyenteng may sakit sa baga o mga taong mayroong ubo, sipon at lagnat, mga nag-aalaga sa mga may sakit, at mga healthcare at frontline workers. Maaari ring magsuot nito kung kayo ay pupunta sa matataong lugar. Basta't sama-sama at laging handa, kaya natin to! Isang paalala mula sa DOH, PCOO, KBP at ng himpilang ito.
You're still watching the PNA Newsroom. Chief Presidential Legal Counsel Salvador Panelo reacted to the findings of a London-based think tank in terms of democracy. The said report described the country as having a flawed democracy. According to the report of the Economist Intelligence Unit, or EIU, the Philippines went down to the 55th place out of 167 countries in its democracy index for 2020. It previously ranked 54th with a score of 6.64. The findings also show decreases in civil liberties at 6.47 against 7.06 in 2019, and functioning of government to now at a flat 5.0 from 5.38. In a statement, Panelo pointed out that endless criticisms from political opposition as well as government's detractors are proof that the administration respects democracy. Panelo maintained that the administration respects civil liberties and even encourages people to participate in governance. He also said the lockdowns do not mean that the administration will stop pursuing measures and implementing policies designed to promote a more vibrant democracy. Navotas Mayor Toby Tiangco reported another casualty in the ammonia leak incident at the TP Marcelo ice plant. This raised the death toll to 2. Tiangco identified the second fatality as Joselito Hazareno, an electrician at the cold storage facility. His body was found near the surge tank that exploded inside the plant yesterday. As of this morning, a total of 96 people have been hospitalized due to the chemical spill, including the first fatality, Mr. Gilbert Tiangco. The leak came from the ice plant, which is partly owned by the mother of Mayor Toby Tiangco. Tiangco apologized to residents and ordered the closure of the said ice plant. Manila Mayor Isko Moreno Dumagoso approved the plan of the University of Santo Tomas, or UST, to hold limited face-to-face classes. This is only for its allied medical and health courses. Dumagoso said he approved the proposal of the UST officials as long as health protocols are being observed. He also said that students who refuse to participate in the face-to-face classes may not be forced to do so. The House of Representatives on Wednesday ratified the Bicameral Conference Committee report on the proposed Corporate Recovery and Tax Incentives for Enterprises, or CREATE Act. The Chamber approved the final version of the CREATE bill, which seeks to lower corporate income tax from 30% to 25% for large corporations and 20% for small and medium corporations. House Ways and Means Chair Joey Salceda said he expects at least 12 trillion pesos in investments over the next decade due to CREATE alone. This will also result in around 1.8 million jobs over the next 10 years. The bill proposes incentives for exporters and critical domestic enterprises and enterprises with investment capital not less than 500 million pesos. Salceda said while CREATE will result in some 931 billion pesos in tax savings for businesses, this would also help front-load relief and cover the economic gap brought about by the pandemic. He said the bill offers several tax relief provisions for all sizes of business, especially small and medium ones. The Philippine Statistics Authority in General Santos City is confident of meeting its target in the ongoing registration for the Philippine Identification System, or PhilSys. The PSA has served nearly 20,000 low-income household heads in the city for the first of the three-step process. Data collection is ongoing in 10 of the city's 26 barangays that have high number of low-income families. Household heads who have completed data collection and pre-registration were also given QR-coded information and appointment slips for Step 2, which will be done by April. The PSA Provincial Office will serve as the registration center for local residents, while extension sites will be designated in each of the 7 municipalities of Sarangani. Step 3, or releasing of the IDs, will be scheduled after a month. The national ID shall be a valid proof of identity that shall be a means of simplifying public and private transactions, enrollment in schools, and the opening of bank accounts. 7 Filipino footwear designers are now ready to compete internationally. The 7 designers were among those who participated in a series of training workshops with Zapateria, the country's first creative hub for footwear design and development. They pitched their designs in the 7th Filipino Footwear Design Competition 2020, which held its awarding ceremonies last January 30. Designer Carla Apostol's nature-inspired Sierra Lady Boots bagged the grand prize. The 7 finalists will be competing in the International Footwear Design Competition in Guangzhou, China in 2022. Philippine Footwear Federation Incorporated Director General Roger P. said, Filipino footwear designers have vast opportunities in the international market. He added the PFFI is pursuing initiatives to professionalize the industry by partnering with schools that can offer courses with specialization in footwear. Up next, a mother flies to Davao in search of her daughter who was recruited by the NPA. And let us take a look at the TikTok dance challenge created to promote vaccine. The PNA Newsroom returns after these reminders.
Alamin ang tamang paraan ng pag-ubo upang mapigilan ang paglaganap ng Coronavirus Disease 2019. Ugaliing magdala ng panyo o tissue. Kung uubo o babahing, takpan ang buong ilong at bibig gamit ang panyo o tissue. Kung walang dalang panyo o tissue, maaaring gamitin ang braso na pantakip. Kung nakararamdam na kailangan umubo o bumahing, agad na dumistansya sa mga tao sa paligid. Huwag dumura kung saan-saan, gumamit ng tissue at itapon sa basurahan. Ugaliin ang paghuhugas ng kamay at paggamit ng alcohol o hand sanitizer upang mamatay ang mikrobyo. Basta't sama-sama at laging handa, kaya natin to! Isang paalala mula sa DOH, PCOO, KBP at ng himpilang ito.
A mother from Metro Manila flew all the way to Davao City to look for her daughter who has been recruited to the new People's Army. Luisa Espina, the mother of Louvain Erica, arrived in the city on January 23. She learned through a former rebel that her daughter has been sighted with a band of rebels in the hinterlands of Davao de Oro and Davao Oriental. Espina described her daughter as a smart student at the Polytechnic University of the Philippines, or PUP. In 2016, the 16-year-old student was recruited to the NPA by members of Anak Bayan. Since then, her daughter had been attending rallies organized by leftist organizations, making anti-government posts and recruiting members. She said her daughter had not been seen home since 2018. Espina is a member of the Hands Off Our Children, a group composed of parents who accuse leftist organizations such as Anak Bayan and Kabataan Party List of facilitating their children's recruitment into the new People's Army. Western Visayas will continue shipping live hogs to Luzon amid the African swine fever outbreak, citing their continued capability to provide pork to the market. More on this and other news from the provinces from Marita Mawahid.
The shipment of live hogs to Luzon will not be stopped amid the 60 days price cap on prices of pork and chicken products sold in Metro Manila. Remelin Ricoter, Department of Agriculture Regional Executive Director in Western Visayas, said the region will ship hogs as long as there are buyers. She added that currently the region has an ongoing repopulation through the distribution of stocks to those affected by Typhoon Ursula. However, with the price cap, some financiers and shippers backed out because they anticipated a price freeze and possible importation. The price range of live hogs in the last 2 weeks of January is now between 130 pesos to 135 pesos per kilo. For its part, Ilocos Norte strictly is requiring hogs and chicken suppliers to register with the Provincial Veterinary Office. Provincial Board Member Domingo Ambrosio said as one of the 3 remaining provinces in mainland Luzon that is free from the viral disease, there is a need to implement more stringent measures and help stabilize exorbitant pork prices. The PVO will conduct seminars on biosecurity and animal welfare and provide the necessary documents needed for the transport of hogs. Biosecurity measures are also in place, such as washing of trucks before the provincial border. In Davao Region, the Department of Agriculture in Region 11 reported that close to 42,000 pigs in the entire region were culled due to ASF. Dr. Army Capuyan, the 11 ASF focal person, said Davao del Norte, Davao Oriental, and Davao de Oro provinces are undergoing disease control activities. Capuyan said DA11 has already distributed indemnification payments amounting to over 134 million pesos to over 8,000 affected hog raisers in the region. They also provided the logistics needed by the local government units for disease surveillance. For the PNA Newsroom, I'm Marita Muaje.
Breast cancer is now the most common form of cancer in the world, according to the World Health Organization, as it commemorates World Cancer Day today, February 4. Data showed that breast cancer, representing 11.7% of cancer cases, now makes up the most common form of the disease globally, followed by lung cancer at 11.4%. Dr. Andre Ilbawi, technical officer at the WHO Cancer Control Unit, reported that in 2020, the number of people diagnosed with cancer globally reached 19.3 million. The number of people dying, on the other hand, increased to 10 million. He said the biggest driver of this is population expansion, improvement in life expectancy, and management of other competing health illnesses. Ilbawi also noted that the COVID-19 pandemic had disrupted treatment of cancer and other diseases. He added that this would likely have an impact on the total number of cancer deaths in the coming years. In sports, vaccine czar Carlito Galvez Jr. says Filipino athletes competing abroad have sufficient time to get inoculated. This amid calls to prioritize athletes in the vaccination rollout. At the Laging Handa briefing, Galvez said the COVAX facility, which will provide the first batch of COVID-19 vaccines, advised the government to prioritize healthcare workers and the vulnerable sector. Earlier, Deputy Speaker Mikey Romero urged the government to let the athletes bound for the Tokyo Olympics and the 2021 Southeast Asian Games in Hanoi, Vietnam, be among the first to get vaccines.
I-discuss po yan sa natin, especially sa ngayon ang available po natin sa COVAX. Wala po sa listing po yan kasi very stringent po yung listing ng WHO na ano natin is yung healthcare workers at saka yung ating vulnerable community. So anyway, meron pa naman ample time for them to have the vaccination. Titingnan po namin sa IAPF kung just in case we have access na vaccines, pwede po natin pagbigyan.
A TikTok user is making good use of the platform and his dancing talent to encourage Filipinos to get a COVID shot. Jerome Jero Pascual and his friends created the hashtag Bakuna Dance Challenge to deliver awareness about the vaccine by dancing to the tune of the Chupeta song by Brazilian girl group T Rio. He also made the steps basic so it would be easy to follow by other TikTokers. While he hopes that those in social media will appreciate, enjoy, and do the dance challenge, he said its main purpose was to inspire and persuade people to get inoculated against COVID-19. Jero also encouraged influencers and the youth to use their platform properly and help set a good standard for their followers to stop misinformation. And here's another look at today's biggest stories. There will be no electricity disconnection for low-income families. Secretary Carlito Galvez says inoculation will start 3 days upon the arrival of COVID-19 vaccines. A mother flies to Davao in search of her daughter who was recruited by the NPA. And let us take a look at the TikTok dance challenge created to promote vaccine. Thank you for watching another episode of the PNA Newsroom. To check more news content, visit our webpage or head onto the Philippine News Agency's Facebook and Twitter accounts. For more stories about the government and how it serves Filipinos, look for these hashtags in all of our social media platforms and websites. We are shown on the pages of the PCOO and its attached agencies. Also, watch us on television on PTV4 and IBC 13. And that's your daily dose of the biggest stories that you need to know. From the PNA Newsroom, we tell stories that inspire change. I am William Theo. Good day, everyone.